Hi guys, today I'm going to be reviewing a palette that a lot of you are probably like, Annette, you don't even like pastels. Why did you pick this palette up? So this is the Natasha Denona Pastel palette. Let me tell you, like I said, I don't really like pastels. I don't find pastels to be that flattering on me, but the one thing that drew me to this palette was because of the whole euphoria trend and the whole rhinestones and like sort of effortless but still cool makeup with like graphic liners and stuff. I felt like this palette would be something that would be really cool to sort of explore those trends with. And since I've been doing so much rhinestones and stuff on my eyes lately, I just thought that having something maybe a little bit muted but still colorful would look really cool with that. So that's kind of like why I picked this up, and I also thought that maybe a lot of you would want to hear my thoughts on this. So that's basically what we're going to do. So I will show you the swatches of this palette in the beginning of the video, just so you can see. So this is one of Natasha Denona's medium-sized palettes. I want to say this was $65. I forget the exact price. This is only the second one that I have of these from her in this size. So when I first got this, I was really excited to play with this. I've already done one look with this, so I think I'm going to show you that look now before we get into the second look that I'm going to do on camera. And I will show you why I'm not so sure if I like this palette so far. But I'm going to reserve any judgment until I play with it a little bit more. But I have to admit that I don't feel like the pigment in this palette is as good as I wanted it to be. Like, I know Natasha Denona's mattes are usually very pigmented, and I really thought that she would be able to make some beautiful pastel mattes. And the ones that I used the two blues, as you can see, and I felt like both of the blues on the eyes honestly ended up looking exactly the same. Whereas in the pan, one is more of a periwinkle and the other one is more of a baby blue, but like I said, on the eyes, using the Natasha Denona eyeshadow base, I just felt like they looked almost exactly the same. And that was a little bit disappointing. Like, yeah, they were pigmented enough. I didn't feel like they were like super pigmented, but they definitely had pigment to them. I did have to build them up a little bit to be nice and intense, but I definitely got the look that I wanted and that I was going for. But then I went to put on the shimmer on my eye, and I just felt like the shimmer, the one that I use is the shade called Adriatic. I don't know if I said that right, but I just felt like it wasn't doing anything for me. It almost felt like a bit of a satin shade. It was kind of hard to get on the eyes. I even sprayed my brush with it. I tried to use my finger, which I never do. I really dislike using my fingers with eyeshadows, and I still just didn't feel like I got the result that I wanted, and I was sort of let down a little bit because I was just expecting more. I do think in the end the look came out looking really nice, and I love the final look and I got a lot of compliments on it, but it's just not exactly what I envisioned when I went into this palette. I think I just had higher expectations that this was going to be more like something you would get from an indie brand, especially when it comes to the shimmers. So far the shimmers, even when swatching them, I really wasn't blown away by any of them. They're quite weak and pigmented, and they're sort of sheer, and they're not really that sparkly or that interesting. Maybe that is just me. Maybe this is what the mainstream wants from a pastel palette, but this is not what I look for in a colorful pastel palette with shimmers in it. I'm just, my expectations are extremely high these days just because of how many indie brands that I work with. And yeah, I just kind of wanted more, but we're going to give it another chance. I'm going to do something different for today's look. I don't know exactly what that is going to be yet, but I do think I want to use probably like the purple shade. And I also want to use this neon green. I think these two are going to go very nicely together. Play with some of these shimmers on the lid. Kind of just see what happens. So I'm of course going to again prime with my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base. This is the shade Light. If you are wondering, I do have a sneaking suspicion that this might be getting discontinued because it keeps being out of stock everywhere I look. And that's not great because I love this eyeshadow primer. I really hope that's not the case. So if you ever see this in stock anywhere in the shade Light, if you are of my skin tone, grab it because otherwise it might be too late. I'm thinking I want to use probably this shade as a transition shade to the purple. I'm going to do this one in my inner corner. Maybe we can play with the like some of these on the lid. Maybe I'll use this shade on my lid. Not really sure, but I just want to kind of play and see where we end up. So I'm going to take this shade here. This seems to just be a powder matte. I don't think this is one of the cream shadows, but I could be wrong. But it seems like it has a little bit too much kick up in the pan to be one of those. But like I said, I definitely could be wrong. And this looks to have quite a lot of pigment. It's going on the eye very nicely. It definitely could be the case that the first look that I did, I was just doing more of a graphic shape and I wasn't able to get as much product on my eye as I wanted to because I was using very, very small, precise brushes. But I also just felt like it just wasn't quite what I expected. But this is going on, like I said, very, very nicely. I'm not having any problems building this up. It's giving me a nice wash of color that I wanted as sort of a transition shade here. And I think I want to do maybe some sort of a pink graphic liner to go with this look as well and kind of go with my lipstick. If you're wondering about the lipstick I'm wearing, it's from Unearthly Cosmetics. It's one of their satin lipstick. This is in the shade, let's see, Linda. I love this color. I wear this color so often. So actually I know what I want to do with this look, so I'm gonna wing this out quite a bit. I'm quite inspired by someone that I've been watching a lot on Instagram lately. I will show you who it is once I get to the part where she's sort of the one who's inspired me to do this. But like I said, I'm gonna wing this out quite a bit here in the outer corner. Just sort of blend it into my blush, I guess, because this is a light enough shade that I don't have to be super precise with this. I'm gonna go ahead and take this shade underneath my eye as well. Definitely not getting a whole lot of anything really underneath my eye. It seems to be sticking a lot better on top where I have my eyeshadow primer, which, I mean, no surprise there really. I do wish maybe it had showed up a little bit better. Next up, I'm gonna move into, let's see, I need to find the right brush because that is always important. Okay, I'm gonna take the shade called Bora, which is the darkest shade in the palette. This is a purple, taking that on my Rephr 13. This one does feel to be a cream to powder, which is good because I really like that formula from Natasha Denona normally. So I'm gonna go ahead and, I was gonna say deepen up my look with this, but I'm really not getting any of this on my eye. That's not what I thought the shade was going to be. I am very, very disappointed in this because I really thought that this would be a lot darker and also just more impactful. But I mean, that's not even laying nicely on my lid here. I feel like it's looking a little bit sort of splotchy and not very smooth. Like, this is not the same color in the pan. Like, look how dark this is and how light this is on my eyes. Normally, Natasha Denona's mattes show up darker on the eyes than they do in the pan. I really wanted to like this palette. Like, I really wanted to have a nice mainstream pastel palette that I could recommend to you guys, but I really don't think this is it, which makes me quite sad. Like, I am having such a hard time getting any kind of pigment from this shade, which is so surprising because, like, it's not that it's not picking up on my brush. Like, it's picking up very nicely, but to get it to transfer onto my eyes, it's taking so much time. And this is so unlike any other Natasha Denona palette that I have ever tried. And I don't have a lot of her palettes, but I really like the palettes that I do have from her, and I just feel like this is not it. Yeah. I'm gonna take a little bit of that under my eye as well and see if I can get any kind of depth out of this. I'm not expecting to really get much out of this at all. Okay, yeah, I give up. Let's do, it's gonna be a very soft look. Not at all what I was planning. Let's see, do I want to use maybe just this one then? Because I feel like the other shimmers are maybe gonna be a little bit too dark. I guess I can use this one and just do like a very soft pink look or something, and then we'll spice it up after. So I'm gonna take the shade called Dainty. This time I am going to put down some glitter primer. I didn't do that on my first look because I didn't want it to be super intense and I wanted to be able to get a nice blend between the mattes and the shimmers, but I just felt like it wasn't giving me anything at all without having any kind of glitter primer. So let's see if this shade maybe performs a bit better with a glitter primer. The shade in general, though, seems to be a little bit more intense and metallic than the blue that I use. So I'm going to take the shade called Dainty, and we're just going to see what this shade is all about. Okay, so this is quite sheer, but it definitely has some more sparkles to it, and it's more of a topper type shade. I still feel like this is quite weak, if I'm being completely honest. Like, if you want a really, really subtle pastel palette, maybe this is for you, but I really don't feel like I'm getting too much of anything from this. This honestly reminds me of, and I feel bad saying this, but I bought the Kylie Jenner, what was the name of that palette? I will have a picture on the screen. She came out with a, was it the Stormy collection? She had a pastel palette. This was before I started my YouTube channel. I tried that palette once and I gave it away to a friend because I thought it was absolutely awful. And honestly, like the pigmentation and the way that the shadows are performing is reminding me a lot of that, which if you are a Natasha Denona stan, I'm sorry, but I just gotta say things the way that I feel them. And this is how I'm feeling right now. I do like this shade though more than I like the turquoise shimmer that I used in the first look. I feel like this is at least giving me a little bit of shine and sparkle, whereas the other one was extremely flat and really just looked like a satin shade on the lid, if even. Like it almost even turned into a bit of a matte, but this is a little bit better, but it's still just not what I was hoping for, which just makes me really sad. So let's see, I'm gonna take the green shade on a bit of a pencil brush here, and I'm just gonna go in. I do feel like this one is probably going to be quite pigmented because it did swatch very nicely. So I'm just gonna use that as sort of my inner corner shade. I'm just gonna really press that on here. Like, see how nice that is? Like, why is the other purple not like this? Because this is beautiful. I really like that shade. Like, that is stunning. That's going on the eye so nicely. And it's so opaque. It's so pigmented. Like, this is what I was expecting all of these mattes to be like, and I don't feel like they are. Just taking this a little bit underneath my eye as well, just to blend it in with the purple. Okay, so what I want to do, I was talking about this girl on Instagram, and her name is Polly P. I will show you sort of her feed here. She does this beautiful thing where she kind of does like dots on the outer portion of her outer corner and sort of just like fades them out into a bit of a wing. And it just looks so cool. And I feel like maybe this look is a little bit too soft to sort of get that effect, but I kind of want to do something similar and do like little specks on the outer corner of my eye. I'm going to use this liner from JD Glow. This is the pink one. I think it's just called pink. It's called Neon Pink. So we're just going to see what happens. I don't know if this is going to work, but this seems to be like a nice tip to be able to do this with. So I'm just going to kind of go ham here and do random little dots, and I think this is gonna turn out kind of cool. I used to do dots like this with liquid lipsticks way back in the day. I used to have like all of the colorful Jeffree Star lipsticks, and I used those for doing stuff like this all the time, and it was really, really fun. So I don't feel like I need to be super precise with this. I'm just gonna kind of, I feel something like this is cool enough. I'm just gonna kind of do the same on the other eye. I feel like this is one of those things that I can see myself starting to do because it's just literally so easy, like, and you just can't mess it up. And I feel like it's gonna look even better if you have sort of a dark outer corner, because with something this light you don't really get that contrast that you would get if you had maybe black or something like that to sort of make this pop with. And this would be a good way for me to get some more use out of these liners, because I don't really like using these kind of liners as actual liners on my top lid. I tend to use them more for like detail work and stuff. So like I said, don't have to be like precise or anything like this. I think this is just gonna look really cool in the close-ups, and it's sort of more abstract. And I got some in my hair, which I guess is to be expected. So I'm just gonna finish off. I'm just gonna do some liner and mascara, I guess, and that's gonna be the look. And then I'll come back and I can keep complaining about this palette. Okay, so I finished off with, let's see, Crybaby in my waterline. This is a lavender from Colourpop, and I also did a couple of dots of neon green in my inner corner because I wanted to enhance it. And I guess this is the shade Pastel Green. I don't know why it's called pastel, because to me it definitely looks more neon, but I think it just sort of tied everything together. And like, listen, I like the look, but it's just not what I had envisioned. And I do feel like it's a lot softer than I thought that this palette would be, and I think that's sort of what's disappointing to me. And like, I get it, it's supposed to be a pastel palette, it's supposed to be a soft palette, but to me it's just too soft. I wanted a little bit more. I don't feel like the pigmentation in either the mattes or the shimmers are what they look like in the pan, and that is my biggest issue. When I buy an eyeshadow palette, I want the shadows to show up the same as they do in the pan on my eyes, because that is the whole point, right? Like, if I see this beautiful neon green, I'm like, that is the kind of shade that I want on my eyes. I don't want a toned down, muted, washed out version of that. I want this. And I do feel like this shade is probably one of the best shades in the palette. This blue here and this purple, I don't like them at all. I feel like they show up way lighter on the eyes. They're super hard to build up. You don't get that pigmentation that I feel like I'm used to from Natasha Denona, and this doesn't make me want to buy more of her palettes, which makes me really sad. I feel like everybody I watch really loves this brand, and I want to love this brand too, but right now, I just don't. And I don't know if that opinion is going to change. It's going to take a lot for me to see another Natasha Denona palette, especially a colorful one, come out that I'm going to want to buy after having this experience. Because if that is what I'm going to get next time, I don't want to waste my money. But yeah, not blown away by this. I'm probably not going to be reaching for this again. If I want more pastel looks, I have other things in my collection that I want to reach for more. I do have a pastel palette from Menagerie, which is really nice. I have the Gimme Glow pastel palette. Those are beautiful. And I have better pastels in my collection. And I also have the Blend Buddy Search palette, which, I mean, this palette is just so beautiful. And this top row here is incredible. And also, I could easily use the blends palette and make my own pastels here because there is a beautiful white that I could basically mix with all of these shades. And there even is a couple of pastel shades in here. So I have all the mattes that I need in a pastel format, and this palette, I'm sad that I bought this. I hate to say it, but that's just how I feel. Let me know if you picked up this palette. Let me know if you're interested in this palette at all. I hope that this review was helpful. I don't mean to be bashing on the brand because, like I said, I know it has like a cult fan base and most people really love Natasha Denona. Myself included, I love most of the things that I've tried from her, but this palette just isn't it for me. So that's gonna be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see some more first impression videos or multiple look videos, I do have a playlist right here. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.